No, I don't. I don't. Looking back at my life, I love the fact that I got married when I did. I was 22 years old when I got married. The only thing that what I would do different is I would, if I could take what I know now back to then, I would have started preparing. Cause see, what happens is like we're not taught how to really utilize and maximize our single life, right? So the culture basically makes it seem like if you single, you're supposed to dread it because you're supposed to be with somebody, especially like during your Valentine's Day season or a little cuffing season as they call it. You know what I'm talking about? So we're taught to dread it, but then from the church standpoint, it's just almost like, well, you feeling the feelings at your feelings and this, that, and the other. Well, just wait. And it's just like, well, what do you do while you're waiting? What I mean? Because it's like I'm on one hand, I'm battling with this. I do want to, be, with sincere companionship, what I'm saying, with my spouse, and then for those, it's like, I don't know if I want to get married or not because I have all these questions. Nobody's really sitting there and really talking to me about this and really helping me explore this. So for me, I knew that I didn't want to spend my life being a boyfriend. I didn't want my kids to grow up in a different household than they did in. I want them to be inside the same household where they can be like, that's my daddy, that's my mama. They've been together all this time. I didn't want to deal with the child support system. I didn't want to deal with the divorce court, none of that kind of stuff. So for me, it was just like, I definitely wanted to have that. Plus, on top of that, one of the other issues that I would run into is I have older men that would tell me, "Oh, man, you should be traveling. You should be doing a lot of other things. While you're single." And it was just like, well, the stuff they were talking about I could be doing with my spouse too. Exactly. Because I mean, it's like, I would love to travel with my spouse. One could put 1,000 a flight, but two could put 10,000 a flight. And what's dope is when you're able to share memories with somebody versus it just solely being just me. So it's like, because that's just all I could do is I had a memory of myself being here or doing this and the other. But when you're able to share it with a plus one, what I'm saying, and that being the one for you, that always is amazing. So it was go. And I'm also just very blessed too that I got it right on the first track because that was my other fear. I was nervous at first. I was like, man, I don't want to get married and then have to do this again. And I was blessed that God allowed me to be able to get it right the first time. So yeah, I don't feel like I miss anything.
Awesome. Well, being with you, I definitely have learned what true love is. We understand the First Corinthians 13 type of love.
Yeah.
We understand the First Peter 4 and 8 type of love. But God gave me even a deeper meaning
Okay.
as to what love really is, His way, His type of love. Being with you, I definitely learned that. Like in the beginning, when we first got together, when you think about marriage, you think about, I think it's natural. You just start thinking about like, what am I going to get out of this? What's in it for me? How are you going to meet my needs? Nah, that's not real love because love is not self-seeking. Really, love is very selfless. And I learned that being married to you. And it has affected not just my marriage life, but my whole entire life. Love is truly unconditional. Like for example, we used to talk about this all the time. Like I can't love you only when everything is going right and when you're being the great husband that you ought to be to me and all of that. Nah, I'm supposed to love you when you unlovable.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of times when you be acting unlovable. But those are the times when I learned how to love you the most.
Yeah.
Like I had to learn how to. I mean, God has spoke to me plenty of times, and He has said to me, don't look at all of what's wrong with him, and don't look at, don't let that thing frustrate you. Love him. That's the perfect time to love him. Basically, love the hell out of you, like in a big way. You know what I mean? Like love you when you don't deserve it, when I don't feel like you deserve it. That's what I believe true unconditional love is. It's not conditional. It doesn't matter what you do.
Definitely.
Right? It does not matter. That's when you've really tapped into something special when it comes down to love, because loving like that is not easy.
No, and for me, coming in, it's funny because what I've learned with with love, period, is that love is a lifestyle. There's plenty. It's
Definitely.
funny. Outside of marriage, there's other lifestyles that go with the marriage lifestyle, and love is definitely one of them. For me, love is like ever changing. Ever maturing. That's how I view love in our relationship, ever
Yeah.
changing and ever maturing.
Yeah.
Because what this marriage has done for me, being married to you, it's been my greatest challenge and it's been my greatest encouragement at the same time. Challenge in the way of this, it's caused me to stretch. So when we
Yeah.
talk about love, it's caused me to stretch. It's caused me to go forth. It's caused me to look at things in a certain lens, in a certain kind of way that I never would have looked at single, or I never would have looked at before. Or I
Period.
could have had it all together
Yeah.
at the beginning and I still wouldn't get what I've got now. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's all God's doing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, especially when it comes down to love, I tell anybody, any man, any woman, if you come into your marriage, if you're looking to get married, and you struggle with selfishness, and you know for a fact that you're selfish, I mean, you have a real honest conversation with yourself that when it comes down to you, it's got to be you first. Pause. Do not go forth with the marriage yet. What you do is you take the relationship that you're in right now, or if you're single and you're doing that, take this opportunity to be able to really work on that selfish piece so that you can become selfless and serving of others. And I think a lot of times, and the reason why people have that is because they look at it, I've been a giver, right? I've been giving, I've been loving, but what about me?
But what about me?
You know what I'm saying? What do I get? Because all I've gotten is heartbreak and this, that, and the other. And I was that dude. I was that guy. So my love came with limits. You know what I'm saying? My love came with conditions. Check the term and agreements, then we can roll.
Yeah, but
Until
that's
then,
the problem.
yeah.
In most marriages, they come in already knowing I'm getting ready to get something out of it. But when
Yeah.
you coming into marriage, and on the basis of love, it's not about you.
Yeah, and
It's
that's
not about you.
and that's the thing. The whole idea is we go in about what it is that we can gain, but we never look at what it is that we can give.
Exactly.
And then those who do, and then when we do think about giving, we're always thinking about giving from a physical standpoint. So we're always thinking about it either from a monetary standpoint, or I can give them knowledge on this, and I can give her or him the best sex or the best food or whatever. It's like, no, what can you give me in times where, like you just mentioned, where the spouse, either spouse, is not lovable at that particular time, where they doing stuff where they irritate you, or they say something that you don't like, or they're making a decision that you can't stand, or anything of that nature.
Or
Or
you can go even deeper than that. If they come in to the marriage with, they're suffering through something. It could
Yeah.
be mental illness.
Yeah.
It could be physical
Or sickness of any kind.
inabilities or whatnot. And are you able to love them through that?
Exactly.
Because that comes with a lot of different challenges, a lot of different ups and downs. And that first year love, that honeymoon type love, that stuff fades off. And then after that, that's when the unconditional piece has to come in, because that's when it really matters the most. I remember, like, questioning God, like, because it seemed like for us, it was like the worst came first.
First, yeah.
Everything went wrong
First.
and
Yeah.
I think that was like the test and the not just the test and the trial, but the training for us.
Yes. Yeah.
Because even in the midst of it, we could have had opportunities to like leave each other. I mean, yeah, we were married, but we could have. I mean, there's divorces left and right every day, but we made decisions. I believe that love is a choice.
Exactly.
It's not a feeling. Love is a choice. And you have to continue to make it every single day. And I think that's what we did. We kept choosing, I'm going to love you regardless.
And
I'm going to
it's-
love you because.
Right. And another thing is, with love being so ever changing and ever maturing, is the biggest thing that love does is it is the biggest component to destroying pride. Because what
yeah.
happens is, a lot of times we get married with pride in our hearts.
Yeah.
And sometimes what happens is, it's not always the most obvious pride. A lot of times it's the most silent pride. And that is actually the most destructive pride that there is. So what ends up happening is, when we come into a marriage, into a relationship, that love begins to strip us of that. And I had to be stripped of that. We've had to be stripped of that. You mentioned the scriptures earlier, 1 Corinthians 13. It sounds great when you read it at a marriage ceremony or if we read it in a verse, but when you really got to live that thing out, being patient, having to be kind, especially in times long suffering, you know what I'm saying, not being rude, not being self-seeking, things of that nature. When you got to do that,
Counting up wrongs, keeping that tally.
definitely,
That's not love.
it will really test your forgiveness. And I also believe that the reason why God allowed us to be able to go through that early is because had we did walk away from each other, it would have proven to us you're not ready yet because you came in about you, y'all didn't come in about the other person.
I think when love is the foundation, there's nothing. Love is a weapon. It's a gift. It's so many different things.
Like a healing balm.
Yeah. Your love got to be on
point. And being married, you will learn it. You will definitely learn it doing it, from God's perspective. The other thing is, but when I say that love is also, being married to you has been an encouragement to me as well. It's because of the fact that it did entail everything that I wanted. You entailed everything that I did want in a woman. I look forward to coming home. A lot of men can't really say they look forward to come home to their wife. I actually do look forward to coming home to you, whether you done cooked or not. I don't care whether you did or didn't. I'm just coming home to look forward to seeing you, being with you at night, waking up to you in the morning time. Here it is, we talk to each other all throughout the day. Like, seriously, we never get tired of being around each other. That's the other thing. Me and you, we've been married for 8 years, been together for 9. We never get tired of being around each other. It's always cool. I definitely like now when the Nets game is on, the Warriors game is on. You can be present, but don't be present. Because I'd be tuned in. But outside of that, there's love.
That's not love.
That is love. That is love. I'm just loving at the moment when my team's is winning. You dig what I'm saying? So it's what it is. But nevertheless. Also, you being my encouragement at times where because there's been so many times I want to throw in the towel, not necessarily when it came down to us, but there have been times with that too. But just in my times of my life, just period, just as a man, just spiritual battles that I've gone through, and God has used you to be that healing balm, because you would say one word or you will say a verse. I was saying to you the other day how you say things to get my mind back in focus. You know what I mean? So it's like you're like a Tupac lyric, And so it just really touches me, in that arena, and it helps me to, to really, really come back into that. And again, it goes back to that love. So
now that's love.
For real.
A marriage myth that I want to expose. There's so many out there, but the one that I want to expose the most on is the one that people always talk about, how you have to be dating for an X amount of time before you get married. Like you have to, like if you don't date for a whole year, or if you don't know or date for a whole 3 years, then your marriage is doomed to fail. And, you messed up if you don't date a certain amount of time before you get married. But that's not true.
Yeah, I never knew where they got that whole thing from.
Well, it's kind of really religious. It's keeping up with some religiosity out there, but there's no time frame. True, you want to go ahead and get to know a person, and you want to spend that necessary time because you want to know who you're getting with. Because that's a lifetime. A lifetime is a long time. Oh, yeah. But it's definitely not a time. You can get to know somebody in 1 year. In 1 day over the phone for 10 hours and know. Or you can mess around and date somebody for 5 years and get married, and y'all still get divorced a year after because you thought you got enough information on that person, but you ended in divorce. So that's what I mean when I say there's no time, that you have to, they say you have to spend a year or so. No, as long as you ask the right pertinent questions, and take that time necessary to get to know that person, there's no specific time.
Yeah, and then see, for me, growing up, it was weird because what I didn't understand was all these nuances around like boys who were, because I knew at 17 that I wanted to pursue my wife. I knew that I did not want to spend my life being a boyfriend at 17. That's a God-given thing because, again, I didn't come from an environment that really inspired me to want to get married. So it was definitely divinely inspired by God. And what was interesting to me about the whole situation was I will come across a lot of the OGs, a lot of the older men who had been married, who were currently married, and they was like, oh boy, you 17, you 18, you 19, you 20, 21. You should be out there enjoying yourself. You should be out there, man, having fun. And it's like that. So when it come down to everybody else's daughter, you want me to be a playboy. But when it come down to your daughter, you want me to be a man. See, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, instead of taking me under the wing and say, okay, well, if you're really looking to get married, this is the things that you need to know. It was like I was being pushed away. And this went on from church leaders all the way on just to, just people who I knew around the way, brothers I knew around the way. And for me, it was just like, okay, having to dismiss this whole thing that, you know what I'm saying, you really got to go ahead and get your rocks off, if you will.
Basically.
You know what I'm saying, sow your royal oats before you get down to your actual woman or your actual man. And for women who are born that way, who are getting involved with husbands who are born that way, you got to say that. But anyway, my whole thing is, I looked at it as this, I would have rather, and I'm blessed that I did it this way, I wanted you to get the best of me versus you getting the rest of me. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing is, you getting the best of me in the beginning, in a sense of this. Yeah, I may not be this yet, but at least you know that you don't have to travel through this relationship and that relationship and this relationship and all those different things. You know for a fact, I'm getting and building with him right here, right together for, right now. And the other dynamic of that situation too is I'd much rather have many chapters with the same characters versus having many different characters and many different chapters, because what story are you telling at that particular point? So it's a lot. And so that's why a lot of people, when they get involved, it's very difficult for you to really get married to the person that you saw at the altar, as far as the relationship is concerned, because you've married everybody else they've been involved in, who've hurt them, who've broken them, this, that, and the other. So all of y'all arguing with each other at the same time. All of y'all dealing with, different kind of issues. And so that's definitely where I'm blessed that we didn't have to deal with that,
Earlier on in our relationship, I believe God had given me this is another way he was affirming and confirming us. He gave me the story of Hosea in the prostitute Gomer in the Bible. You know how God wanted Hosea to marry the prostitute. God was basically showing me in that story how, he would put you in an awkward situation to basically for a higher purpose. Like, our relationship was definitely unique, and it was different.
Yep.
It came with a lot of
unknowns in the beginning.
Yeah, and conflict and a lot of struggle, but it was purpose behind it. Like, how the story goes with Hosea and Gomer. Like, God used them to show Israel, his love. Like, he wants to show his love for Israel through the Hosea and Gomer story. He wanted to, prove that he can redeem his people. So it was like a purpose, basically. It was a purpose behind it. And the same thing for us. Like, it's a deeper purpose. Like, we're 8 years in, and I really don't fully know all that purpose entails. I just have glimpses. He showed me, things that he showed me how our future looks.
Yeah.
But I don't, we still have to live that part out. But it was that particular story, I believe, that kind of defined our relationship. And then, it's going to be funny, but the story of the Princess and the Frog. The Princess and the Frog is such a dope story. But it was, and I'm not calling you like a frog.
Yeah, I got you.
But
I see.
it was like,
I chose one that she gonna call me an amphibian to the
no.
whole world. Just turn me to a reptile.
It's a beautiful story. You've seen the story, right? You've seen Princess and the Frog.
I've heard about it.
It's a beautiful story, right? But the biggest piece that I got from that story was, how you came into the relationship and you were not who you are yet. You know what I mean? You were in a frog state, like. But when he met his princess, she gave him meaning and purpose, and when she gave him that kiss, he became, the prince. Like, his purpose became alive, and his purpose became evident. And I just feel like, you know, God put us together, me with you, you with me, for a specific purpose. And I don't know, I can't, you know how when he gave it specifically to me, so I know what he meant,
And I
but
get-
I
I get what you're
can't
coming
explain it.
I get where you're
You know
coming
what
from.
I mean?
I do understand
I
where
only
you're
know
coming
what it means for me.
Yeah.
Me trying to, it's just like trying to explain faith. It's like, well, how do you have faith on this? Well, you know, you can't really explain faith sometimes. Faith is what it is. It's the things that we're hoping for and the evidence of things not seen. So it's God showing me something from a visual standpoint. And he gave me that story, The Princess of the Frog. So I just believe those two particular stories define our relationship. It gave it purpose and it gave it meaning. And it's just, it's beautiful. Another thing I believe, another story I picked up long after our relationship. I was watching a Steve Harvey talk show, and he had this couple on there, and they were talking about how they met. And this woman literally, you know, married a homeless man, and it just blew my mind. But it spoke volumes on, you know, how, you know, I'm just keep it real. You know, certain women, they get into the relationship and they sizing the man up, what he got. You know, he got this, he got that. Oh, I done married into this huge thing. You know, it's gonna be big for me. I'm gonna come up. I'm gonna be upgraded as a result of being with this man. And when we met, you didn't have. To keep it real, you didn't have nothing.
I didn't.
You didn't have anything.
No.
You didn't
I
have
was-
nothing for me to brag about,
Right.
or what women my age bragged about. Oh, my man got this, my man got that. You didn't have any of that, but what you did have, it was only two things I wanted. I purposely wanted. You came with those, and that was all I needed, and everything else I knew would fall into place because you had the biggest ingredient, the most important ingredients. One, you had a relationship with God. So important, and you were submitted to him, and you had a big heart, and you had this heart to love. You came in and you loved me, you loved my children unconditionally. And I knew that if you can love me, and if you knew God, and God was in you and was inside of you, and he was orchestrating your life, and he was leading and guiding you, then I knew that you could lead me. And that was big for me. And monetary, and you know, all of the stuff, the assets that come along, I knew that stuff, we can build that together. You had enough to give God something to work with.
Yeah.
And that was good enough for me. Well, Matt,
I'm gonna let you go first.
No. You
I'm
are
gonna
a
let
storyteller.
Yeah, but
so
I'm gonna let you go
kick
first.
it off first.
Yeah, I'll let you go first because you tell it. You tell
All
it.
right. So we met at this place called Bar Louie's. It's a place back home in Chicago. We were first at a business meeting for a company that we both worked for at the time, and then they had like an after set, and so we all shifted there, and we met there. We actually got an opportunity to talk to each other there. He was sitting alone, and I checked him out for a minute, but I didn't say anything to him. I just noticed that he was alone. But he soon ended up at my table, him and his friend, and you can pick it up from here.
Yeah, so what happened was I was sitting at the table that me, my mentors, and a lot of people from our team that was part of the business function, we was all sitting around, and they had eventually went over to these other set of tables over there, and I was the last to get the memo. So eventually I noticed my mentor, he was sitting down and he was talking to me, and he was just like, yo, he was like, listen, man, I know that you definitely, it was a random conversation too, because he was just like, if you really looking to date, you got to get out of here, and you're going to have to really date, and just one thing, I know you like older women, because my preference has always been women who are older. That's just been my preference. That's just what I rocked with. You know what I'm saying? And it was never anything sexual. It was just always, connected better, with them. But anyway, nonetheless, he just said that when it comes down to your wife, you got to search for her. You got to put yourself in position to find her. So fast forward, I ended up over at the table where Shy was at, and I hadn't, met her prior to, anything about it. Now, mind you, I was ready to go. I was ready to go anyway, because the business conference had already, like annoyed me. So I was already ready to go. But that's what happened when you ride with other people. You leave when they leave. So I was stuck. So anyway, I'm sitting there, and she's sitting there. And my mentor is talking to just random people, whatever, and he happened to notice that I ain't saying nothing. So he happens to look over at me and notice that she's sitting directly in front of me and say, hey, man, say something, say something, say something. So I go ahead and I do that. Upon me doing that, she looks up at me simultaneously, and she just holds her hand out, and she just gets the most warmest smile and most beautiful eyes. It was just like, hi, and so I shook her hand. She introduced herself to me. I introduced myself to her. And we just pretty much was talking. I think that whole conversation went on for like a good
hours.
Yeah,
and hours.
3.5 hours.
No, we were talking for a minute.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was just us, and nobody else was there.
Now, and the fun part about it was I was trying to run her away because it was so interesting. We had got society and time had got so much to a point to whereas at first it used to be when a woman would bring up marriage to a man, it would run him away. But I was experiencing the opposite. If I was talking about that I had aspirations to get married and really serious about that whole situation, women would be like, oh, okay, well, I know you're going to find that wife. I ain't the one. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like I would get that kind of resistance in the conversations because a lot of them still want to play the field or they had, bad relationships or what have you. So I'm thinking this conversation is going to be just 2 minutes. 2 minutes turns into 3 hours of us talking.
Yeah, and he was really selling himself. I mean, he was saying all of the real stuff. I mean, my girlfriend was there at the with me, and we both were looking at each other like, "You hear him, girl? Do you hear this? I mean, like he really talking it." So yeah, it was he caught my attention and kept it, and that was really I leaned in a little bit more. It was attractive, and so we talked. I mean, he was just basically about everything you could think of, and I knew that night that it was just something about him that I just felt I needed to stay connected to him. So I didn't let him leave without making that, let me get your social media information. I feel like we need to stay connected. And it was just something about it that was definitely a glow. And we did. I asked him for his social media information so that we could stay connected, and we stayed connected.
I was very glad she asked for social media versus my cell phone because about 4 days prior to us talking, I had got robbed at gunpoint. After I came out of prayer, how ironic is that? I was talking to the Lord and I come out and I'm the one to get robbed. Ain't this some stuff? And so the thing is, I was just very glad that she didn't ask for my number because I was just like, yo, that ain't something you want to divulge to, somebody, especially you don't tell no woman, hey, I would give you my number, but I was robbed at gunpoint prior to that. But we did exchange social media, Facebook, and my whole thing with Facebook, at that point, I was like, if you were my Facebook friend, I don't care who you were. If me and you didn't have no kind of like conversation, there was like no kind of like reason for you to be there, I would add you and then I would turn around and delete you right afterwards, But with her, it was just like, yo, when I added her, went home. And the crazy part about it, it was hard to pronounce her full name. I forgot what her full name was, even though I saw the full name on her profile. You know what I'm saying? I even asked my daddy. I was like, hey, daddy, how you say this? You know what I'm saying? So he was explaining. So when I finally did call her from the house phone, worked up enough courage. We was talking through Facebook Messenger as time built up over the next 2-3 weeks or what have you. Really, a month? I think it was.
It was about a month.
Yeah, about that.
Yep. So we met in September 2013.
Yep, September 14th, 2013.
We went on our first date in October.
October 19th, 2013.
We became official.
November 14th, 2013.
And then he proposed to me.
February 14th, 2014.
On my birthday.
Yeah.
And we got married.
April 1st, 2014.
Just like that.
Yeah.
And it's been a really interesting ride.
For real.
Ever since.
Definitely. Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Shy.
We just want to say thank you all for tuning in and being able to watch our dialogue that we had today. We're definitely going to have more content that's going to be shown on this channel. Definitely like and subscribe
Yes.
and reshare.
Please leave your comments below. We do read them. We do love them.
Definitely. And of course, pass it to any and everybody that you know.